Alright my friends, welcome back to Frogboy X1 Gaming. I'm Andrew and today I want to do my 1 month review of the 4080 Super. So if you guys like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. Now this is the last day, the 30 days. I've had the card for a whole freaking month and I've used it. I mean, I've had the 7900 XT back in there for maybe a couple of days throughout this whole time, but that was just to kind of like, you know, see how it was going to perform on the 7800 X3D. As you know, when I first bought it, I had a 5900X. The community told me that my CPU was bottlenecking my 4080 Super, so I wasn't getting the full power or whatever out of my GPU. Well, it turns out that the main thing that was causing that, or the main culprit for that, was in fact the Nvidia beta driver that I was using for the new beta software. It was, for some reason, it was knocking out like it was a pretty decent portion of my overall performance, which was putting it right in line with that 7900 XT or just under it in certain games. Now I did make some mistakes while I started covering this. I did not, you know, I didn't really, you know, plan or expect to run into these type of instances where the 4080 Super was going to be underperforming. On paper, the 4080 Super is closer to the 7900 XTX, whereas the 7900 XT is kind of just like that weird child that costs a little bit too much and kind of it's weird. It's almost like a 4080 versus a 4080 Super in terms of, like, you know, like almost as strong as a 7900 XT, but obviously it has some cuts, or almost as strong as the 7900 XTX, but it does have some cuts. I do kind of feel like the 4080 and the 4080 Super are a lot closer together than the 7900 XT and the 7900 XTX. Go on puppy, go get mommy. No, but okay, so this is basically the my full month review after using this card for 30 freaking days. Getting to know this card, upgrading my platform to a 7800 X3D to try to get the maximum power out of the 4080 Super. And I'll tell you what, my friends, I will tell you what. I do think you can get a 4070 Ti Super a lot cheaper. It's got 16 gigs of VRAM, just like the 4080 Super. You're definitely going to be more along the lines of like 7900 XT power with that. Maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more. But I do kind of feel like the 7900 XT slots in above that. I know that I talk a lot about AMD when I make these videos, and that is because when it comes to the strong points of Nvidia, which is DLSS, which is ray tracing and path tracing, and you know, like CUDA applications and stuff like that, when it comes to those features that the Nvidia GPUs have over the AMD GPUs, I don't use those features enough to where it justifies the extra added cost. And you might be in the exact same position as me. Now, I know that I play a lot of games. I probably play a lot more games than a lot of people do, because I have this thing, it's called video game anxiety. And if I can't find something to play, I will buy something. I will keep buying games until I find something to play. So I do buy and try a lot of different video games, so I feel like I get a very, very good overall general experience for how these cards perform. And I find myself enjoying and playing longer games that favor the AMD platform. Now, there are games out there, obviously, that I love that do feature ray tracing and DLSS, you know, absolutely. It gives it better performance and stuff like that. I only use DLSS and FSR if I absolutely have to. And the only games that I absolutely have to use those so far on like the 7900 XT or the 4080 Super at 4K, Alan Wake 2, Cyberpunk 2077. And then maybe a couple other ones that I mean, both of these cards are pretty much giving me like a 4K 60 experience. Like the other stuff that I play, like Assassin's Creed and stuff, we're talking like 90. We're talking 90 FPS at 4K native on this. When I'm playing something like Ghost Recon Breakpoint, man, I'm getting like 60, 70, 80, 90 frames a second while I'm playing these games at native resolution on both of these cards. So when I look at that, when I look at the overall performance gain that I get from a 4080 Super over my 7900 XT, I sit back and I think, okay, well, ray tracing. And dude, I've beat myself up all month over this. I really have. Like, I really have, because I know a lot of people put a lot of stock into ray tracing for these Nvidia GPUs, and while it is a nice feature to have, and while it looks pretty good on a handful of games, there's a handful of games that it really does shine on, and I mean that with the utmost respect for everybody out there that loves gaming and visuals and everything just as much as I do. There's a handful of them. There really is only a handful of them. And then, you know, other games like the Unreal Engine 5 games, they run just fine on AMD hardware with ray tracing. They really do. Some of the other games like Hogwarts Legacy, some of these other games, you can actually utilize ray tracing on these AMD GPUs. So when people are saying that like ray tracing is the advantage, it is an advantage in a few games. Like, it really is. And there's no taking that away. There's no lying. There's no denying that. Every single one of them have Nvidia branding on them. So yeah, they had better run better on an Nvidia GPU. In my opinion, they had better run better. But when you look across the full suite of ray tracing games, and I think I have, let me see how many of those I have. It should tell me like right here, because I got them all right here. So in my ray tracing stack, I have 39 games that have ray tracing in one way or another. And you know, the ones that really stand out: Cyberpunk 2077, yeah, Cyberpunk 2077, Hitman. Let's see what else. I mean, I guess I could kind of put Ratchet and Clank in that pile. So I'll throw Ratchet and Clank in there. So that's 3. And then Watch Dogs Legion, I'll throw that in there because I do get much better performance on the 4080 Super. And then Alan Wake 2, that's just 39 on Steam. So there's probably about 5 or 6 that really take advantage of the Nvidia hardware and really crank out a playable experience on a 4080 Super. Even on a 4070 Super, these games were playable at 1440p with high settings and stuff, and still getting, you know, with combination of like frame generation and DLSS, you could definitely easily play those and have a comparable, a good looking experience to where it was playable. So I am going to give that to Nvidia. Definitely their mid-range cards with the 4070 is definitely, the 4070 Super definitely is able to do that and play those games. So if you can, and kind of recommend, you know, getting like a mid-range card, you know, because then that doesn't like chew up so much of your money, and you'll be able to, you know, like upgrade a little bit sooner. But I mean, if you've got a 4K screen, you don't really have a choice. Like, you kind of have to go, you know, higher end. Maybe 4070 Ti Super is going to get you at least a playable experience. Obviously, you'll have the DLSS and the ray tracing that everybody talks about, but I personally, my friends, cannot recommend getting Nvidia for ray tracing. Just on the fact that like most of these games that are playable with the ray tracing, I don't think that, man, I don't know. Like, I love the way ray tracing looks in some games, but like I've said before in multiple other videos, that there are some games, my friends, that it just isn't worth it. Like, it's not worth the hit to performance that you're going to receive. Like, you would be much better off turning on like HDR. HDR in a lot of games is more impressive to me than some of the ray tracing effects that are out there. And I do kind of tend to feel like I give that edge to the AMD GPUs. I feel like the AMD GPUs just have a better way of cranking out the ray tracing. Well, there is the new feature on the Nvidia cards that if their game does not have HDR, it will do the auto HDR for you. It will use AI to do the HDR. I haven't personally been able to try that yet because I was having freaking problems with the app. Tomorrow we're getting a new Nvidia app update, so I will re-download that. That's supposed to bring the AV1 encoding to the Nvidia app, so when I'm recording, I'll be able to record at 120 frames a second. I'll be able to record that with AV1 encoding, and I'll also be able to, you know, obviously record with some HDR, so that's been pretty decent. Overall, man, like I'm perfectly happy with the 4080 Super. I think this is a good card, but you got to understand that we do have new cards that are, you know, potentially coming out toward the end of the year, and people are gonna want to know, is a 4080 Super worth my money, my time, my investment right now? And here's the way I'm looking at it: a 5080, if this card has GDDR7, I don't know if I would expect it to have 16 gigs. I don't know. And if it does have like 16 gigs, I would expect to pay a pretty high premium for that GPU. I could see them charging $1,300 for a 3080. Obviously, it will be closer to 4090 power. And that's what you got to ask yourself. I mean, you're basically going to get like 4090 power, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less out of a 5080 Super, and it's still going to have the 256-bit bus, still going to have GDDR7. So you look at that and you're like, in my opinion, like a little bit, I don't know, man. I don't know if that much extra power is worth that. Honestly, if you can get like a 4070 Ti Super, I would probably recommend getting that and seeing how far you can make that card go, honestly. But then you got to also understand that I think now that both AMD and Nvidia are making so much money on AI chips and AI, you know, like these AR farms and whatever else they're building out there, that TSMC die space, man, these guys are going to start charging us an arm and a leg for this stuff. So I kind of feel like this is probably the last generation of cards. I would recommend maybe just go out and get a 4090, go out and get a freaking, you know, 7900 XTX, and see how long those cards will last you guys for, man. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like AMD is going to stay in the game and keep making that sweet video game stuff, but I kind of see Nvidia getting super cocky and charging an arm and a leg for their tech. And I don't know, guys, like maybe, you know, down the road when it gets to time where you just can't play games anymore, then maybe you buy another Nvidia GPU. I don't know how to tell you guys this. All I know is I like this 4080 Super. I think it's awesome. I bought it specifically so I could test it on the channel, so I could play games, so I could see how good this card is, as well as, you know, I'm trying to get into this whole AI thing so that I can, you know, try to learn and like figure some stuff out, because I actually want to try to utilize AI to help, you know, with some of the content that I want to do on the channel going forward. So yeah, I'm hoping that maybe I can do that with the 4080 Super and be able to actually utilize some of this AI stuff that everybody's out there toting and selling. So I do think that this card is definitely worth your time. I also think that maybe your needs might be better served with a 4070 Ti Super, or even a 7900 XTX or 7900 XT. The 7900 XT can really be found at a very good bargain lately, so I definitely like that card. I've had that, I'm going on 11 months. I've had the card 11 months now, and it is absolutely incredible. So, all right, my friends, if you guys like this content, do not forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.